friends. I'm back again, part 2 of talking about healthy and natural ways to help your body get over anxiety and depression. So, my last video, by the way, if you like what you hear from me, you can like and subscribe. Press the button. In the last video, I did a little bit of preliminary talk. I talked a little bit more about, a lot more than I will in this video because I won't share any, of maybe my credentials of what gives me the platform to talk about this subject. Also, my 2 top favorite things that I think help the most with this. Today's video, I'm going to share a bunch of other things. I think I've got like close to 8 to 10 items to share with you. So we're going to go through them quick. But I have seen radical things happen with almost all of these techniques with certain people. Because like I said on the last video, you never know which is the one thing that is going to help the most. For instance, like the person with scurvy. What's the one thing that's going to help him the most? Vitamin C. Eating some oranges. Okay, so you never know what's going to be the best. So, okay, here's one I'm going to start with. Doing a parasite cleanse. Okay, I know this sounds a little crazy, but you might have heard that most everyone has parasites. And that is such a gross thought to think about. But I will tell you, especially, like, if you're my age, I'm 45. If you're my age and you've never done a parasite cleanse, you most definitely have them and you should do a parasite cleanse. And I will tell you an easy, cheap way to do that in just a second. But also, if you eat sushi, any sort of raw meat, if you've been out of the country, especially to India or Mexico, if you live on a farm, you are much more likely to have more of them. So I think anyone who goes out of the country to a place like that should come home and do a parasite cleanse. Or if you're my age and you've never done one, or whatever. I've had my kids do it. We've just all done it together. It is so easy to do and the benefits are really great. Let me tell you about how I first heard about of course I've heard about parasite cleanses forever. But I was somewhere, I went to my friend who was a chiropractor, and I had done something crazy, like I threw my hip out trying to win at limbo. And I hurt myself really bad where it was hard to walk. Anyways, I went in to see him, so he just popped that hip back into place, and he did some muscle testing, and he's like, have you ever done a parasite cleanse? I'm like, because he's like, it's kind of coming up lightly. And I'm like, no. He's like, oh my gosh, you haven't? Like, why not? You should. I'm like, okay. So I went to the store, and at the health food store, I got a parasite cleanse box. So the way a parasite cleanse works is you do it for 10 days. You take a 7-day rest, and then you do it for 10 more days. Super easy. You depending on what kind you do, they're all easy. But basically the first 10 days, you're killing all the live ones, and then you wait a week, and then the last 10 days you're getting its babies. Sounds really gross, but that's how it works. So anyways, I bought that kit, and I put it in my pantry and never did it until a couple years later. And I was going through, it was at the beginning of all of my stuff, so maybe like 6 years ago. Anyways, there was just a lot of stress there, and I was losing more hair in the shower than I normally do. You know, like when you wash your hair, you always lose a certain amount of hair. I mean, my hair is like confetti, leaving it like confetti, going to the Shauna party, there's hair all over the place. Anyways, but at this time I was losing more hair than normal, and I was noticing it. Like, you get used to like how big your ponytail is and stuff. And I remember I was sitting with a friend at a table, and I was telling her about this. I'm like, I'm sure there's like something I'm missing. Like, I don't know what it is because I take good care of myself. I take good products. And we were like, let's just look it up right here. So we Googled it. Guess what the top 2 things were for parasites? Or not for parasites, for losing your hair. Stress. She's like, oh, you got some, girl. And parasites. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I've been somewhere and they told me I need to do a parasite cleanse. I have the cleanse in my house right now. I've never done it. I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, it's crazy the things us girls do. It's like, oh, we have them like for health. Okay. But oh, we're losing our hair. Okay. We'll do the cleanse. I went home and I did the cleanse and I stopped losing so much hair. I went back to normal amount. So like, and you don't know, like, anyways, I won't get into all that. So that solved that whole thing. You might be wondering how this coincides, like how this relates to anxiety and depression. Well, let me tell you. I have a close girlfriend who was suffering from all sorts of crazy things. Anxiety, depression. She didn't want to get out of bed anymore in the morning. She was having all sorts of, it was affecting her family life. She thought she had fibromyalgia. Her immune system was super weak. She had so many different health issues going on, including anxiety and depression. And she went to someone and they said she needed to do a parasite cleanse. And she did, and they all went away. All of those health issues went away. Guys, that is major stuff. I mean, major stuff. And the thing is, she's like, I did eat a lot of sushi. She's like, we ate sushi every week. And, like raw fish, I mean, even if they say, hey, this is like premium grade, like they can still get through, So quite interesting. If you haven't done a parasite cleanse, do it. I'll tell you my favorite way to do it now, because I've done one since and it worked just great. In fact, I had all my kids do it at the same time. We just all did it. Get diatomaceous earth at the health food store. You can get a big bag, like this size bag, for like $3, and you mix in maybe the first day 1 teaspoon. You can work up to 2 teaspoons for an adult. Kids are probably fine with 1 teaspoon in a big glass of water. First thing in the morning, wait 30 minutes before you eat. That's it. That is it. For 10 days. Take a week and do it again for 10 days. There's hardly any taste to it because it's just diatomaceous earth. It's just crushed up seashells. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Crushed up seashells. So it just tastes kind of chalky. Not a big deal. You do want to drink a lot of water because that does absorb stuff. But if you know anything about organic gardening, you know that organic gardeners a lot of times use diatomaceous earth on their plants because it's totally harmless to humans, but because it's super fine to us, but to little animals, they're like super pointed and they'll cut their insides up. So anyways, so there's parasite cleanse. Do it. It's super easy, super cheap. Have your whole family do it together. You never know what health issues are coming from parasites. And if you've never done one, you have them and you need to get rid of them. I'm deciding which ones to do first. Okay, here's one. This is more for the realm of depression, although I'm sure it could help with anxiety too. So there was a study done, and it's one of those things, like I read it, I ingested it, I did not look up the study beforehand, big surprise. There was a study done with, I'm talking hundreds of people, so a big study done with people with depression. And they had them walk outside for 20 or 30 minutes a day. They have to be outside, no sunglasses on. and they need to be in a place where they can look far away. So like, maybe like if you're in town, like maybe the nature center, like where you can like look off far. I used to live in the country, and I know this helped. I get like all this stuff rising up. I just go take a run. I mean, I like to run, but I'm like looking out, and they found, and I don't know the percentage, but I'm thinking is like, I mean, I know is high. It was like 90%. It might have been like 87 or 92. Most of the people were able to get off all their depression medications like within a couple months. We're just talking about walking outside, looking far away without your sunglasses on. Why? Because vitamin D, you get a lot of vitamin D and all sorts of other things through your eyes, and your sunglasses will prevent some of that. If you're worried about sun exposure or whatever, do it in the morning, or in the evening, but that's super helpful. But that's a huge percentage, just by walking outside 20 or 30 minutes a day, and that'll help with all sorts of stuff too. So that's another thing. That's the second thing. Okay, and here's something that relates to that. This is really easy. Grounding. Have any of you guys heard of grounding? I know some of you have. Grounding is the science or whatever of, I'm not going to call it science. They've learned a lot of great things though about walking on the ground, like having your body on the ground. There are so many things that cut us off from the Earth's magnetism, from the Earth's just energy source. We wear shoes with thick soles. We walk, wood, of course, stops that conduit. But like, I've even read that women, they say women need it a lot more than men, and I can understand that for a whole variety of reasons. But walking outside in the grass with no shoes on, even if it's warm outside, if you can get your whole body, like lay out for 10 minutes on the lawn, just like get your body in touch with the earth. It's called grounding. There's a whole science behind it. You can look it up. But we are cut off from all of that. We need that in our lives. It can be so helpful. I've got lots of stories around that. I'm not going to get into that today. You can do your own research and look it up. There's even devices that you can plug into the grounding unit of an outlet, run the cord, and you can have like a pad at the bottom of your bed where your feet are on it while you sleep. You can have one while you're typing. It could help, but nothing is going to take the place of like just going outside. And anyways, it's a great thing. It's a real thing. I highly recommend doing it. The next thing is a Bowen technique. So those of you who are close to me or who are familiar with my line of work know I do a treatment called Bowen therapy. And I've got a great story around this. I learned Bowen therapy years ago, 5 years I think, before I was even a massage therapist. I had no thought in my mind that I would be a massage therapist in the future, but I knew about, and I have a whole story behind that too, but as far as this goes, I knew about its amazing health benefits, and it had only been in the US like 10 or 15 years. I found actually the lady who ended up being my mentor for massage. She knew how to do Bowen. I mean, when I first read about it, I was like, it's only been in the US that long. It's probably only in like California and Colorado, right? No, someone in Ozark, Missouri knew it and taught it. So I was like, the next time you learn that, or the next time you teach that, me and my daughter, Hosanna, because she did want to be a massage therapist, I'm like, we want to take the class. I learned it way back then because I'm into prevention. Every family should have a healer in the family. And I was like, this could be really beneficial for prevention. But you know what? The place that Bowen therapy really shines is anyone who's had any sort of physical or emotional trauma. So here's a story I have. Well, let me say this first. People, when they go through difficult things, and I'm talking emotionally right now, people store stuff in their muscles, in their bodies. Let's say someone close to someone dies. Let's say they go through a divorce. Let's say, there's so many things that cause a lot of extreme negative energy. If you don't have a way to process that out and for your body to handle that, then it's just going to sit, and 10 years down the road, you're going to have, it could potentially go into something crazy like fibromyalgia that, how did this happen? So many things that people struggle with physically are rooted in emotions. As one of my other videos, bitterness is as rottenness to the bones. Like negative emotions affect our physical body. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. And so one of the things that Bowen therapy does is help release that stuff. So here's my story. I have a child, and I'm not going to say which one, but I have a child, and the last couple years, I feel like I keep saying this, it's just been a learning experience though, and I'm talking from what I've learned. The last couple years have been difficult on all of us, and one particular child came to me one day, and they're like, Mom, I was at school today, like our homeschool co-op, we homeschool, it's like their co-op or educational program. Anyways, this child was like, I was at school and something really weird happened. Like my heart started racing super fast. I had trouble breathing. Like they started describing all this stuff, and I was like, I had never heard of this before. And I'm just like, were you running? Like, what is up with that? And anyways, they were like, no, it just happened while I was just sitting there. And I'm like, okay, it's gonna be fine. Because I feel like a lot of things, like with kids, they talk about stuff and, it just goes away. Or, Mom, my left shoulder hurts. Well, the next week what shoulder was it? Oh, it's my right shoulder. Wait, which, So anyways, I'm like, you're gonna be fine. Just take a deep breath. If that happens again, drink some water, walk around, whatever. Well, this was, let's see, when was it? Not this past fall, so a year ago, so a year and a half ago. Maybe it was the end of summer. Anyways, it happened again and again. And I was never around when it happened. And so to me, I wasn't taking it super seriously at first. And then it started happening more frequently. Like before, it was like 3 weeks went by. Hey, Mom, that weird thing happened again. I'm like, okay, But it happened more frequently. And then one time I was there when it happened, and it was scary for the child. And I didn't realize it affected this child like this. Like the kid, my child was scared because their heart was beating fast, and they had trouble breathing. Like they could breathe fine, but it was just like this stuff that came up, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember that day that I was there, it happened, and then it happened again the same day, and I'm like, whoa, this is a big deal. And so I did some research, came across panic attack. And I talked to my best friend Katie, and she said the same thing. And I'm like, what in the world? Why is one of my kids having a panic attack? Like we're all very healthy, and why is this child having this? And why? And what am I to do about it? So I was like, okay, if my child is having a panic attack, that means there's stuff going on in their body. And what can I do? I can give them a Bowen, because Bowen helps release. There must be something that's he's whatever held on to. And me giving them a Bowen could help release it. And so I gave that child that day a Bowen. With Bowen therapy, there's something called a hard set, where you do another one within a week, like 5 days ideally, 3 to 5 days, but you do it in a week. It does what's called a hard set. So I did that. Gave the child one that day. Like 4 days later, I gave them another one. Can you believe that no more of these panic attacks for like 6 or 7 months? I mean, that was amazing. Like, they were increasing in number, and then suddenly I do that and they're gone. Something happened at this child's, like they were somewhere where there was a lot of stress and kind of emotional turmoil. The child came back and was like, oh, when I was there, I had another one. And so I'm like, okay, we know what to do. We're going to give you another Bowen. Another Bowen happens, no more again. I think so she's only had a couple now, and I've been able to arrest it with giving a Bowen, helping her body to release the stuff, which I think is pretty incredible, especially considering like how fast they were like multiplying. And again, it was something I was talking to my friend Katie about, and we're like, how is this happening? And she's like, I know a lot of people it's happening too. But the relief that came when I was like, okay, like this was a big deal. It's not just like a feeling of nervousness. It was just like an attack, and I was able to stop it. That's big news. So if you live in the area, of course, I do Bowen therapy. I know others who do Bowen therapy. If you don't live in the area, there are other people. You can just look it up and see in the area if there's someone who does it. Really incredible, very foundational, neuromuscular and design. All right. Okay, couple more things. What are you putting into your body mentally, emotionally, physically? Turn off the trash. So many people get anxiety and depression from watching the news. Why is that? Because the news, the things that sell, is the sensational stuff. Like, oh my gosh, this is happening. It causes a lot of stuff to rise up in you. If you are someone who really wants to stay on top of the news, there are lots of ways to do it in ways that you're not getting in that zone of like, oh my gosh, all the time. And I wish I had them, because I just thought of it, I wish I had them offhand. But services where you could just get like a digest where you just read some stuff that happened, like a minute and a half's worth of reading of stuff that's happening in the world on a daily basis if you want. And you're not getting that emotional, heightened response, from watching it. What are you listening to as far as music? There's certain music, the messages in the music that you listen to are training your brain, because music has a way of bypassing how we think logically, like on the front end, and it just kind of goes in and changes things in ways that maybe if you were in a different state of mind, you'd be like, no, I'm not going to listen to that, or I don't agree with that. But music has a way of just bypassing that stuff. So do movies and TV. When you watch movies and TV, your brain goes in a hypnotic state and it just receives. And so we have to be careful about what we're letting our minds be educated by. Do we want our minds to be educated by the Word of God, by positive, listening to positive things, or not? So I can say a lot more about that, but I'm trying to keep it short. What are the things we're putting in our body? Caffeine and energy drinks. Oh, goodness. there's a study, a lot. I know you guys love how technical I am, of CEOs and different people getting heart attacks, like in the 80s, like tons of them, 40s, dead. Caffeine, lots of caffeine will do that. Your body needs to come down. Your body needs to rest. Your body needs to detox from all the caffeine. Energy drinks are just crazy bad for you. I would suggest, well, there's other things you can do, but like try drinking lemon water in the morning. It's a cleanse for your liver. It does so many great things for you. It is a natural pick-me-up. If you need a little caffeine, maybe try and reduce the amount. I can talk more on that, but we're going to move on. Two more things that are these are super good. The first one, these are two things I'm putting in a different category. These are in the moment things. First one, if you, and I had a client come in here one time, and her, someone close to her was going through a major health issue. And she's like, I know her pretty well. She's not the type, she's not an anxious person. She's not, she doesn't worry. And she came in and she's like, I am so worried about this situation. She's like, this is such an unnatural feeling for me, but I just feel like that, it's like right here. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like when you feel like everything's right here and you're just like, and she came in and she's like, I need a massage to relax, but she's like, is there anything else I can do? And so I'm like, yes, I can tell you lots of things. Told her, like, when she gets done with the massage, go home and do grounding. I'm like, go lay out in your backyard for an hour. I told her all sorts of things. But I was like, since you're right here with me right now, I'm going to do a Thai move on your belly. And I'm going to tell you what that is. As soon as I did that, she's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what just happened, but by the time she left, she's like, everything is gone. That feeling is gone. She texted me the next day. She's like, I never went home and did the grounding. I didn't do anything because it's gone. This is what you do. You can do it over your shirt, but if you're doing it to yourself or someone that you love, because you can actually even do it with a little bit of oil, maybe put a little bit of lavender or peppermint essential oil if you have it, but you don't even have to do that. You could just do it with your hands. You're going to start your hands on your stomach. You're going to start with, okay, this is my right hand. It probably looks like your left hand. Okay, so I'm going to do it so I don't get confused, but just realize it's my right hand. My right hand. I'm going to start, you can't see. I'm going to start down at my hip bone. I'm going to come up. This is the way your intestines move. Okay, so it's important to get it right because you want to go in the right direction. I'm going to start at my right hip. I'm going to come up. I'm going to come up by my rib cage, by my diaphragm. I'm going to go to my left side in a circle. I'm going to go back down by my pelvic bone. And I'm going to come around and go back up again. Okay, so it's circles. Okay, and you do it firmly. You do it like 30 times. Okay, that's a lot. But that feeling settles your stomach. You hear all the time. I had a gut feeling. I felt it in my gut. My stomach is in knots. I have butterflies in my stomach. So many things in our gut. They call our gut our second brain. Sorry, sometimes jokes come to my head that aren't always appropriate. They call our gut our second brain, which I could say more about that, which is why gut health is so important to it. It has to do with the health of your whole body. But 30 times. If you could do it with some oil and some essential oil, for instance, also if you have a stomach ache, putting some peppermint oil with some carrier oil, like olive oil even, or coconut oil, doing that on your stomach, take it away within a couple minutes. I mean, it's amazing. But that, if you're feeling anxious, okay, so this isn't really for depression, but if you're feeling anxious, do that. Sit down, lay down, do the belly rubs, starting from the right to the left and back down. Okay, so I guess to you guys it would look like this. I don't know, that confuses me, the mirror thing. Second thing, and this is the last thing. Second thing, is if you feel anxiety, so this is for anxiety as well. If you feel that anxiety coming up, you need to arrest it and do something different, change it up. The best thing is to because that's like an energy, it's a negativity, it's like got a lot of stuff in it. Go sprint. I know it sounds crazy. Go outside and sprint. And then walk and then sprint again until it's over. Because that's going to come up, it's rising. If you don't stop it, it's going to come into something else, like a full-blown like anxiety all over your body, all over everything. If you can stop it, you are switching that anxious, nervous, anxiety energy into something like that's going to give you energy to take a full sprint and to just arrest that process. You do that every time it comes up, and it's going to switch things. It's going to create a pattern of something else where your body's not like, oh my gosh, you know, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, and it just dissolves. And then it's going to just stop going there because you're not going to allow it to go there. And that is so beneficial. I actually read about this in a weight loss book of all things, because it's like talking about weight loss in very different ways, like not your typical ways. It incorporated a lot of different things. And he was talking about how anxiety can affect your weight and different things like that. And it was saying when that happens, so he actually suggested that in this weight loss book. And I've taken that, and I had a client a while back, and they were sharing with me about, you know, I'm not saying who or anything like that or giving any whatever. I'll just say a friend. A friend who was talking about, you know, having some different issues with anxiety, and went to see a counselor, and well, because she was talking about it, and I'm like, you know what would be really helpful? And I shared this with her. I'm like, when you start feeling this, I did the circle thing on her stomach. I'm like, also, if you just go outside and sprint. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's what my counselor said. Like, because she started seeing a counselor, and the counselor told her to do that. And she's like, yeah, I've been doing that. Like, me and, you know, anyone who's around me, like my kids, I'll just be like, we're going to go outside and we're going to run off some energy. She's like, I do sprints on the driveway. And it arrests it, and it's very effective. And so I remember myself doing that. Things would get heated, really emotional back in my past life. And I'm like, I'm appreciative that even though things didn't work out between us, that the kid's dad knew that would be helpful for me. And like things would get really emotional, I'd just be like, I've got to go take a run. And he'd be like, I get it. And I'd put on my running shoes, just run outside. I'd just burn it all off. I'm so happy now. I got like the runner's high and endorphins going. I can handle life a lot better. Anyways, so that's it. I hope these things have been super helpful for you, and can benefit some people in your life or yourself, people that you might not even know right now. So anyways, if you like what you've heard, leave me a comment. Tell me what you liked, or if you have any ideas that I didn't share. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.